What's up, everybody? Welcome to another passive income video. Today, we're going to be talking about everything you need to know about blogging and SEO for 2022, so the year coming up. And we actually see some changes already starting now. And for the video's concept, I basically want to put it on the foundation and say, this is for basic levels of success. I would say this is a beginner's guide of understanding where Google is heading, where Google currently is, and how it's changing over time to serve what we call us, the little man, for the bigger beginner bloggers. 4K per month is a blog that is pretty small. It's a beginner blog, but it produces a lot of income. But for people like us who are in search of passive income, imagine if we had 10, 20 blogs, a portfolio that is generating $4,000 a month each. We'd probably all be very financially happy. So let's go ahead and answer some questions about Google, some frequently asked questions. And this is going to set the table, set the standard for the concept of the video. So the first question or the first concept about Google is that people think it's saturated. So is it saturated? And the answer is no. Believe it or not, the changes that you're going to see in this video that the Google algorithm is doing is actually paving a way for beginners. It's actually creating new opportunities for beginners, and it's really interesting. And I actually really appreciate what Google is starting to do for us beginner bloggers. And when I say beginner bloggers, I'm not necessarily saying a beginner who just started the business. I'm not really saying that. I'm saying it's somebody who has a team of one, a team of two, a team of three. You know, they don't maybe necessarily have all the resources to go out there and build a full-on team. Right? They're not a full-on company. They're a one-man team, a one-man band doing their best. That's what I mean when I say beginners, guys. I'm not talking about experience level, because you'll see here, experience level doesn't matter anymore. Okay? Now, the second thing I want to address for the frequently asked questions is that is blogging hard? Is SEO hard? The answer is no also. There's going to be a few core concepts that you want to keep in mind, and we're going to go over what those core concepts are later into the video. So no, it's not going to be hard. It's not going to be technical. And you guys know I always recommend the platform Funnelizer Pro. I don't recommend that just for fun. I recommend that because it takes the technicality out of it. Obviously, if you're going to use something like a WordPress, you're going to have to get a little more technical. You're going to have to understand things like website speeds. You're going to have to control things like hosting, your hosting package, and how that affects your website speed. You're going to have to worry about the different kinds of SSLs. It's a more technical approach, obviously, if you're on a platform like WordPress. But Funnelizer Pro takes care of everything. So I would say if you're not a technical person and you don't want to have a hard time with that, just go with Funnelizer Pro. But anyways, let's go ahead and continue. And by the way, I'll leave an affiliate link down for Funnelizer Pro in the link in the description box down below for you guys to check it out. Okay? So, blogging and SEO, what's changing? And my answer is a lot. Let's go ahead and talk about it. So, I wasn't the only one that kind of been feeling this or experiencing this. A lot of people in the SEO space have been concurring, essentially. With blogging and SEO, over the years, we've tend to notice that there's been less and less of an emphasis on domain authority, on power in the marketplace, on pre-existing aged content, and we're actually seeing this less and less, which basically means that a newer blog has a better chance at succeeding now. And I've started to see this in a very, very strong way since about the past 8 to 9 months, but I've started to see this even now a lot more, and it's become much more visually manifesting, I guess you could say, within my Google Search Console with my newer blogs, and I've been noticing this. And I'll actually show you guys an example of a blog post in a few minutes. But essentially, we've been seeing that there's this change with Google. In fact, Google even changed their documentation, and we'll get to that. But they started removing the concept or the idea about the history of your website, about domain authority, about this facade and this idea that we have about domain authority, and they're changing domain authority as a concept to now a legacy concept. It's something of old, and I kind of want to explain. So blogging is becoming more simple. In fact, In the past, you guys probably heard me say I would always recommend 80 blog posts. 80 blog posts are where, you have to write 80 SEO blog posts because Google's not going to pick up all 80. And when I say pick up, I mean rank on page 1. And so it gives you a good enough chance to actually get ranked. In fact, I actually put up a whole video on YouTube that was kind of where I showed my stats and I showed the percentage. I showed the probability of getting featured on Google's page 1 with a certain amount of blog posts and what's the likelihood. And that's why I kind of came up with that 80 blog post number to kind of say, okay, this is the number that you want to kind of achieve. And the problem with that is it manifested itself by people thinking that blogging was hard, that you had to do a lot of blog posts to actually succeed. And it was. But now I say a different number entirely. I say the number is 35. 35 really, really good SEO-focused blog posts will be your drivers to your website. That's kind of what I say now. Now, why did the number decrease significantly? Well, it's because Google now is paying more attention to quality over quantity, okay? Quality is one of the things that Google actually, and it makes sense that they're going to optimize for in their algorithm. So how does Google actually optimize for quality? It's actually very clear. They use user indication to see if a blog post is considered quality or not. So here's how this works. Imagine Google is the algorithm is kind of sifting through articles for a certain topic. Let's say that topic is, what is the best credit card to join in 2022? Let's just say that's the concept. And let's say millions of affiliate marketers write out their articles and they want people to sign up via their links. Well, as we know, there's only going to be one blog that gets in position number 1. Only one blog is going to have that great situation where they're at the top, at that very top position. Now, it's honorable to be on page 1 as well, but obviously page 1, rank 1 is where you want to be as a marketer, as a business person, and everybody's going to be fighting for that spot. What's going to happen is Google is going to take all those blogs and put them in what we call a container or folder. And it's going to start studying the words that are posted in that. And this is the algorithm. This is how the algorithm works. It's going to start studying what are the most common keywords, what are the most common headlines, what are words that are being frequently used. And they're going to look and they're going to say, okay, words like credit cards are being used frequently. Words like Capital One are being used frequently. Words like Chase are used frequently, right? These are just examples, guys, right? Words like credit card is going to be used frequently. And so they're going to say, okay, in order for a blog post to even be meaningful, to be in like the top 20, it has to contain this amount of keywords based on the articles. And it's going to contain this amount of keyword density, whatever that keyword density might be based on the sample size, okay? Then what they're going to see is they're going to start looking at now, and this is what used to happen, was the history of that blog. And this is, like I said, what used to happen. They look at, okay, where are they driving traffic from other places? What kind of blog is this? What kind of website is this? How many keywords, how many words do they have on their website? Does it have 100,000 words? Or do they have 2,000 words? Is this the only blog post on the whole entire website, on their website? Or do they have other pieces of content? This is, like I said, what Google used to do. And of course, Google will do this to a certain point, right? Because there's over 200-something ranking factors. But now, Google is actually less emphasizing on that. It's actually pretty incredible. Google is actually more emphasizing now on the focus of just that blog post. They're looking at more things like the internal links of that post. How well does it serve the consumer? And how do they do that is they look at the signals from Google Analytics, right? When you connect your website to Google Analytics and you see what pages people are on and how they're clicking and are they bouncing or they're spending enough time or are they scrolling through fully, these different indicators are telling Google if the consumer was truly served or not, right? Pogo sticking, all these things. And the blog that essentially reigns supreme, gets rank 1, is the blog that gives out the best signaling to Google. And so really what that means is, right, in a more simplified concept or ideal, is that to get ranked on Google, you're not going to need as many backlinks. You're not going to need as much domain authority. You're not going to have to sit there and wait 9 months for a blog post to rank. You're just going to have to write the very best blog post you possibly can. And I think I actually included a image here of a brand new blog that I did, but I want to kind of go to this slide first. And I want to talk about, and I'll show you guys, like, for example, the data here. And I just want to show you guys like a confirmation. But I want to go through this slide first, and I kind of want to explain myself. So why does Google have this new outlook, okay, about this new idea or this new concept? Well, as you guys know, Google is always kind of looking how to best serve their customer. If they weren't, they wouldn't be Google, if that makes sense. There wouldn't be most of the world using Google as a search engine, right? If they weren't the best at it, right? And we actually started to notice this many years ago. I think over 12 years ago, where we would search things on Google and we just wouldn't have to go to page 2 anymore. It's almost like Google knew what we wanted to search for, right? We wouldn't have to go to page 3. We wouldn't have to go to page 4. Believe it or not, I actually remember a time when I was younger doing those research papers for school, doing those things where I would end up on page 6, 7, 8, 9 on Google, constantly looking for what I was essentially looking for. And then it got to the point where I didn't need to go to page 7 anymore. I didn't need to go to page 4 or 3 or page 2. It was all there on page 1. And Google is going to keep doing this, and they're going to get better at this, and they're getting better and better by the second because of their algorithm. And the algorithm is favoring quality of the specific blog post, not quantity. So when I say quantity, I'm referring to the whole entire website. I'm referring to the amount of content on that website. In fact, it used to be that websites that have, let's say, one blog post would never get on Google. Things are changing. It used to be that blog posts that were essentially dedicated to a website that had 40, 50, 60, 100 blog posts had a better chance at ranking on Google than others with smaller amounts. Things are changing, okay? So now it's just a lot more meaningful to get on page 1 of Google by having a really good written blog post where you can possibly think of everything the consumer who's reading possibly wants. And if you serve that customer, that reader, to the absolute maximum value, Google's going to put you on top. I want to give you guys an example. I want to say, look at this site. This is a site with 3 blog posts. This is one of them. The blog post here, this is a page specifically on my Google Search Console. If you notice, it got picked up here on November 9th. Google discovered this blog post on November 9th. Mind you, it's a new blog entirely. If you look here, it's been appearing and disappearing in Google, which means it's brand new. They're trying to figure out where it shows up. The first day that I was essentially indexed or crawled or whatever you want to call it, indexed on Google, I was in position number 21. That's actually pretty good. But guess what? We appeared and reappeared, and then here we are. Recently, on November 27th, 2 days ago, position 9.8. We're a brand new blog post, right? We got picked up the very first day that we ever existed on November 9th. And I had crawled this website. Maybe it took a month to actually crawl for Google to finally pick it up, right? After it was being written. So it took like about a month to be, after it was written to get picked up. It was in position 21. And then from the November 9th to November 27th, so about 3 weeks, it took to get from position 21 to 9.8. And 9.8, we were on the first page of Google, and it was an article that was written on position number 9.8, and it's, you could see here, they're still testing where it belongs. It might even go higher, because you could see here it held a little bit of position here, and then it went up to 9.8. Now, why do I use this example? This is an example, like I said, of a blog post that has been used, posted, publicized on a website that only has 3 articles. So if we're talking about domain authority, this website doesn't have any. If we're talking about backlinks, this website doesn't have any. If we're talking about some sort of authority in Google's eyes through aging, doesn't have any. But yet, it gets to the first page of Google in about 2 months' time. And 1 month of that time was just to even get crawled. The next month was to get indexed, and we made it to page 1. I wouldn't be, it wouldn't be far to say that in a month or two, we could be on position number 1. Now, this is just an example of, something that I've been noticing, and other SEOs have been noticing this too. In fact, if you go to the godfathers of what I call blogging and SEO on YouTube, Income School, their YouTube channel, they actually put out a video a few days ago saying the similar thing, that Google is actually really, really caring about quality more and not quantity of content on that blog post. And they were actually saying, to go as far as the video, and I'm not quoting them word for word, I'm butchering what they're saying here, but they were saying that, you don't have to put out a ton of content. It's not really what Google's looking for anymore, but they're looking for a very well-written article. So in summation, guys, what is this going to mean for us? Okay, what does this all have to do with the algorithm? What does it mean for us as personally? Is that we have now a chance as beginners to get even closer to where we want to be financially, right? We all talk about passive income. We all want it to happen. And the biggest reason why people don't get started in blogging, and I've noticed this with my channel by putting out different polls and putting out different surveys, is that people have reported and been saying that essentially it's too difficult. It takes too much effort. It takes too much work. But you guys saw the results here. It's not like I made this up, right? You guys saw it. So what's my recommendation or what's my call to action for you guys is start your own blog, guys. I mean, there is no better time than to do it right now. And don't get stuck in your head thinking about, what tools do I need or how, what do I need to do or how do I start? You just start. You figure out what's that first blog post that you're going to write on. And then when you figure out what that first blog post is, you write it, but you write it really, really, really good. You figure out, okay, what else everybody else is doing? How can I make mine better? Right? And that's essentially what you have to do, whether it's affiliate marketing, whether you're just blogging for SEO purposes, whether you're blogging just to learn, whether you're blogging to make money. It doesn't matter what you're doing it for, but you got to figure out, how can I make mine better than everyone else's? What are other people missing that I know about this topic? Which is why I always recommend to people, it's important that you blog about something you're truly passionate about. The next slide here talks about Google doesn't update us on algorithm conditions, because I know a lot of people are going to be asking, well, where is this update that Google announced? Google doesn't always announce algorithm updates. In fact, they keep it relatively private because the search engine game is a rigorous game, a rigorous business to be in. If you put out as a company some of the new updates that you're doing, companies can kind of duplicate what you're doing, learn about what you're doing, and use that as a back to kind of jump on. So Google doesn't always perform or doesn't announce algorithm updates. In fact, a lot of companies that run off algorithms don't announce any kind of updates for their algorithm. They keep it relatively private. It's our responsibility as SEOs to kind of figure out what's exactly going on with the algorithm based on our personal experiences. And I left a link here for you guys to actually see what Google is specifying. So you can go ahead and read the kind of the documentation that Google Search Console and everything about SEO kind of is here for. But they actually made something kind of apparent, and I actually want to read it to you guys. It's highlighted here in their documentation. It's actually on the first page, and they say they actually changed the definition of SEO. Search engine optimization, SEO, is often about making small modifications to parts of your website. And I highlighted that because I wanted to just make you guys realize is that you're not going to come out here and write a perfect article the first time. What you're going to do is you're going to write an article, you're going to sit on it, you're going to wait to see what Google does to it. Then you're going to go back as an SEO and make improvements to it, and then once again, sit back and relax and see what happens, whether it changes up or down. And if it maintains an upward trajectory, then you know you did something right. If it maintains a downward trajectory, then you know you did something wrong, and you want to kind of, look back at things. So Google here didn't say anything about the history of your website. They didn't say anything about the backlinks of your website. They're specifically making remarks to the quality of your content. If you guys look inside their documentation, things like that, they're specifically referring to the quality of your website. So I really, really recommend that if you guys are passionate about making passive income, and you want to get on a journey. I call it the hero's journey, right? Because at the end of the day, it is a hero's journey. If you're going to get into blogging and if you've never made money online before, if you think about it, it doesn't cost money to start a blog, right? It costs what? $2, $5, $6 a month? It doesn't cost money to start a blog. It costs courage. It costs pain. It costs, hard work, sweat, integrity, not integrity, but effort. It takes a lot to actually succeed, and that's why I call it the hero's journey, because if you can actually make it to the other side, right, you can change everything for your life at that point, because you now have a skill that you don't have to go work for anybody else with. You can kind of do it for yourself. So I figured this video would kind of set the standard for everybody who wants to start a blog in 2022. Whoever's been thinking about starting a blog, maybe is a little bit hesitant. You have the information here. It's never gotten easier. So go ahead and start, all right? I'll talk to you guys later. Thank you guys for watching. Peace out. Bye.